business, and if you have a business, learn about getting the resources you need or the connections so that you can thrive and succeed as a business. And that's what we're about, you know, that community, whether it's social equity or just business in general. The cannabis industry is here to stay, and it's growing, and it's important that we support each other. So it's important to hear different opportunities like Tim and Eric, because think about this. Not only is there thousands, I don't know, 5,000, 10,000, what is it, Dan, waiting for 75 licenses here in Chicago.
70.
But once they get them, they have deadlines to meet their business plans and their goals. And, you know, opportunities to work with people like Tim and Eric are going to allow people to franchise and maybe get some of that expertise, as opposed to starting from scratch and inventing the wheel over and over again. So I'll let Dan start it off with the questions. And, you know, again, it's exciting to have you guys here. Thank you for joining us, Eric and Tim.
So guys, I don't care who starts out, Eric or Tim, but tell us about how you got interested and what drew you to the cannabis industry. Tim, why don't we start with you?
The opportunity, I think. Eric and I had talked for quite a while about how our generation, we missed the dot-com boom. We've missed the, you know, some of these other biotech booms and things like that, because they happen in an instant. And we were either too young or not in a position to where we could enter markets like that. But due to the federal scheduling, and yet each state independently marking these up, you have 50 individual booms that are going at the pace of government. And so the fact that, you know, Oklahoma itself was the 26th state that legalized, gave it a fresh opportunity in each new market. And so it was something that we saw that was captivating, interesting, lucrative, and we put our efforts into it.
Good. And Eric?
I actually came into it kind of a different way. So I wasn't a cannabis user before all this, and still I only limit myself to CBD because I don't have any physical ailments, and I really look at this as a medical product. But that being said, I didn't have any experience whatsoever in the business or in the industry, so I had to decide whether or not I was going to even get into the industry when it was proposed to me by my partners, Tim and David. So I spent 2 days studying, just deep diving, learning everything I could about the industry to decide whether or not I actually would do this. You know, I saw a lot of the seizure videos, you know, where people would put a syringe of CBD into a kid's mouth and stop a seizure instantly. You know, and then I just kept digging and digging. A lot of testimonials, what I watched of cancer patients and survivors. And so that compelled me to be all in. I called them up 2 days later and I said, let's do it.
So what would you say the advantage of someone that would consider a franchise opposed to starting out something from scratch, especially in the franchising of a cannabis franchise? And talk about what states you're licensed in addition to that, if you would, please.
Okay. Yeah. Well, when we put this idea together, David and I were still in Afghanistan. And
Tim, I don't want to cut you off. Can we have you guys speak up too?
Yep.
Perfect.
Is that a little bit better?
Oh, much better. Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Much better. Thanks,
Yeah,
Tim.
so David and I were still in Afghanistan at the time when Oklahoma legalized. And I've been looking into cannabis, watched, you know, Run from the Cure, you know, the Rick Simpson story, really got intrigued about the plant because it's one of those natural things that's out there that actually does so much for so many. And yet, because of its scheduling, very little, you know, clear research has been done throughout the years. There's stabs at it, you know, but it's very wide open and kind of a unique thing. So we had been looking for it, and Eric was here local in Oklahoma. And so when Oklahoma legalized, we were like, let's go for this. And the reason why I think Eric would say too that we got into the franchise is that we looked for one. because we wanted that time to market, and we wanted to, you know, have someone navigate us through those hurdles and, you know, kind of have a Bible of what's the right, you know, best business practice for an industry that we were unfamiliar with. And in essence, we spent about the last 2 years building that Bible. And so Oklahoma being fairly, you know, easy regulations, you know what I mean? There's not a lot. They vary from municipality to municipality, but the state itself is very open for both the medical cards, being the only state that you don't have to have a state-approved list of preconceived or pre-conditions to be able to get your card. In that same way, if you met their parameters, it was very easy to get a license. And so working with that and looking at the things that were around, we kind of developed this and said, you know, we really need to take the time from our philosophy about the industry, bringing, you know, the health and holistic ability of one plant into the spectrum, and try to, you know, incorporate that in an industry that is all too often head shops, you know, and elevate it if we can. And our best foot forward was to work with some consultants and put together the franchise for the model.
And with your, go ahead.
So that's our fundamental principle is at Eufloria, is to elevate the industry. So that's something we work really hard on with our layouts, with our security parameters, with our uniforms, our customer service, the products, the medical knowledge that comes along with coming into a store and becoming educated. These are the things that we're doing to elevate the industry as a whole, not just us as a company.
No, absolutely. And that's a big thing, it looks like, with your mission, is that the experience for the customer, right? So, you know, that's a lot of things that people kind of have to reinvent when you come into a dispensary, because you're not talking about something that, you know, it's not a circle peg and a circle hole. It's a different experience for everybody, right? One thing, let's see if we can do one thing for someone. So you have to have someone that can explain it in a way that more so goes on the experiences that they're looking for, the ailments that they want to, you know, cover or anything like that. So that educational element is usually, you know, what's missing. Do you guys have kind of a training that goes along with your franchises? I mean, how are you guys really covering that?
Training manuals, employee handbooks, and HR that, you know, structures everything for job, duty, title, and description, as well as SOPs that we've incorporated. You know, how to properly greet a customer, how to get them into a discussion. There seems to be, and again, it's because of federal scheduling, there's two lines of thought out of one plant. You have industrial hemp growers that are bound by law to never look into THC. And then you've got the other side of the THC growers that won't waste nutrients to phenotype something that has CBD. And so there's two, call it, kinds of customers that would come in, right? There's the person who may have a CDL or may have some other parameter at their job where they can't ingest THC. And so you bring them from that CBD side of the family and then fill them in with the knowledge of what that could do, you know, if they could. And then the other one is the THC, you know, cannabis, you know, straight marijuana smoker or person that's, you know, taken it for years, but still has the chronic pain and doesn't realize that they need to unlock that network by combining that with CBD. Mm-hmm. So we bring a lot of patients who have experienced the psychotropic and the euphoric effects of cannabis, but never understood the mechanism, how it enables your body to heal itself. And we bring them into that knowledge along our CBD lines of products that we carry. And
how many dispensaries do you have right now?
Right now we have 2 active dispensaries. We've got one that's just completed build out in McAlester, Oklahoma. We have one that has a completed build out, and they're doing the inventory right now, the initial inventory in Owasso, Oklahoma. We have another cannabis cafe that we're getting ready to open, or I'm sorry, we're doing the licensing for right right now and permitting in Jenks, Oklahoma. One of those is one of our Tulsa locations is actually a cannabis cafe. It was the first in the country. The people in West Hollywood might disagree with me, but we actually beat them by a day. That was September. We went live with that, but it's a place that you can come, eat regular food. There's a full line of teas, coffees, espresso, fresh baked on-site pastries, and then you can go into the full kiosk model of ours. We have two models. We have a full standalone store model, and we have a kiosk model. We have a kiosk model there that actually holds as many SKUs as we have in our full store.
Wow.
So you could go into a complete dispensary, pick out your products, purchase what you need, and then walk back over to the coffee side. You can put your additives in coffee, stir it. You can eat your edibles inside of the coffee shop. You can go outside. You can smoke a bowl. You can smoke joints. You can socialize, dab, whatever. So, and we also have live music almost every night normally. We haven't been doing that as much with the COVID thing, but
I like it.
We have a road trip planned. Me and my girlfriend.
Fire coming
which
down next week.
location is that? And is there camping outside?
I don't know.
I'm into glamping, so I want to stay at the hotels.
Well, it's great to see people come in. You know, we run specials, everything to kind of make it as easy as possible with our pre-rolls and things like that, where people can come in for $20, buy a bundle of pre-rolls, walk out onto that cannabis courtyard and sit right there in the open air, beautiful Tulsa weather, and consume with their friends.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, let me ask you. So me and Dan ourselves, we kind of hunt down exotic strains. I myself hunt down sativas and stuff. With your franchise model, how is it? Is it kind of, and I'm not saying it's anywhere related, but you know how like Subway, Chick-fil-A, each franchise, they're just getting the same product sent no matter where they are nationwide. Is it the same way with you guys and your strains? Like you go ahead and you pick, these are the top, these are going to be our strains. This is what our franchises are going to use. Is it that type of model?
Outside of THC, yes, it works just like that, with accessories and CBD products, things that are legal like that. But in terms of flower THC, I'll let Ten take it because he's the one that built the PDF that shows how that thing is supposed to work.
We have 3-tiered racks. We usually keep 4 of those full with sample jars, right, for everyone to see. And we work across the spectrum. So we've got one stack that would be indica, one that's indica dominant hybrid, one stack that's 50-50 hybrids. Then we go to the sativa dominant hybrid side, and then a rack of full sativas. Mm-hmm. So we usually run 24, 28 strains, and then additional, pre-rolls of all sorts of flavors and strains. But specifically to your question, those federal laws prohibit us from being able to get what we've got from people that we know in California, Colorado, Washington, Oregon, gotcha. And be able to, send it to you guys there in Illinois. It's one of those things where we have to develop that market through the franchisees in each market to, educate them, show them what this Eufloria standard is, show them how to build that experience, and then show them how to look for those growers that actually have that empathy in mind in their product lines.
So then it kind of gives that ability to have that local farmer mentality if you need to, which is very, much appreciated in each market.
Right. What we're mandating is basically the amount and type of strains. That way you're not going to walk into a Eufloria and they've got 3 jars, which happens at lots of dispensaries. It's kind of sad, but
absolutely.
But you're not going to walk in and see 56 jars either, because that can get overwhelming as well.
You have shortages like we do here in Illinois. Of course, we have recreational, and some of our facilities that are medicinal also have recreational. So the recreational people are second, the medicinal people are first. So if you have a medical card, you go right to the front of the line, right in, you have a greater, you know, ability to choose from what you want other than what the recreational, but that's changing. And we're seeing that the growers are finally catching up, but we got a small number of growers in Illinois to begin with. And now they're approving, I think, is it 70 craft licenses, Alton?
75, I believe.
75.
They just delayed it as well. You know, I was talking to someone earlier that, you know, they're looking at applying for the next round and not even approving the 75. I mean, they were supposed to be announced in July. Now it's looking like September.
Yeah, and the other thing is there's 1,900 applications for 75 licenses.
Well,
But one thing I will say about Illinois is if you compare it to what's happened in Washington and Oregon and other places where there's an excess of growers and they can't even get in the dispensaries because there's just too much product on the street, it's really enhanced the black market. So looking at what you're doing with the medicinal side, where do you see your next expansion being outside the state of Oklahoma? If you have,
just to answer your first question, I'll let him answer the detail about product availability. But right now, as last time I looked at the OMMA website, which is our Oklahoma Medical Marijuana, we had 6,500 growers.
okay.
And there's no limit. We don't have quotas, so they can grow as much as they can afford to grow.
So it's good for you because you're a dispensary and you really get the choices of whatever you want. That's really good for you guys having the dispensaries.
But I'm hearing it's a lot different in Oklahoma, and I think Oregon is the other state that's similar in structure, as opposed to here where it's not like that. You know, it's very restricted.
Right, and then there's, I believe, like California has like 3 different tiers of licenses.
Yeah.
Where depending on what you pay for that permit gives you X number of square footage. And so one of the things where the growers that we found that have their best products that seem dedicated to what they're doing, we've advised them to not grow just to expand to more strains, but to focus kind of like a boutique, right? If I do 5 things and do them better than anyone else, those 5 will rise to the top regardless of how much anyone else grows. And so to kind of focus their skills on what they've already perfected and then add the square footage to keep those same strains in the market that no one else can compete with. And I think by doing that, they end up not stepping on each other's toes, because Eric and I have talked before that we do see this. Everyone's putting in more square footage, everyone's buying more lights, everyone's running more, you know, AC vents. And eventually, with it already being, you know, more grows than dispensaries, as the dispensaries go out of business over, you know, taxes or you know, whatever causes the contraction in that market, there's going to be that after effect that's going to ripple across those grows, and then we're going to be incinerating more than needed.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. When I go to Washington, you know, in Washington, you can't own your own grow and then have a dispensary other than the craft grows. Right. Are you familiar with that? Mm-hmm. And then in Oregon, you can own dispensary and grow.
Yeah.
Here you're not required to be vertically
integrated. And Colorado mandated that you be vertically integrated.
Right, and I like that. I do. Mm-hmm. And that's the ideal situation if you especially want you to develop your own strains and you have the wherewithal and the genetics to do that. You know, on the other hand, probably in Oklahoma, you have some advantages there by being able to choose from the different strains and narrow it down, because obviously you can't handle all the products that are on the market.
Right, right.
Well, there's also something to say, as instead of, you know, 100 different people, like one of my favorite strains is the Pink Panther strain, right? It's an exotic, you find it, I'll buy as much as there is available, right? But there's difference between 100 people with 100 Cs all growing it separately and one cultivator growing it 100 times.
Correct.
Because that consistency is what's going to make it a market, and that's really the difference. I mean, that's one of the issues I think the market has, is that, you know, an ounce of wedding cake on the West Coast and an ounce of wedding cake here in Chicago, just using that because that's a popular strand, might be a lot different.
Sure.
Right. We've always seen retail as the greatest opportunity in the market in Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
That you know, competition is going to contract, and if you do it right, very complex business, but if you do it right, you'll outlive all these mom and pops that are around right now, and they're already starting to fold because they've gotten their first tax bill and don't know what to do.
What's the ideal franchisee that you look for that you'd want to work with that would, it's not just about the money, but the type of person you want to come into your business in whatever state they're in, but how do you choose that? Are you very restrictive in who you allow just because somebody wants to buy a license or a franchise? How do you feel?
Yeah, maybe touch base on that process. How does someone become a franchisee?
Well, we have a vetting process. There's your initial phone call because there's the million tire kickers, which is fine. I mean, we'll answer their questions. It's okay. Someday maybe they'll be ready. And then, if it gets to the next stage, then we start asking for proof of funds, that they can actually do this and stock their store at the same time. And then we have three categories for us as a franchisor to the franchisee. We're looking for a pure investor. So the pure investor or investment group that would like a turnkey solution, and we could actually help place managers for them. So all they have to do, this thing is so systemized. Our operations manual is 156 pages, tells them everything to do from opening to close. Or in some cases, to not close because we operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week here. But your pure investor would love this model. So that's number one. Number two would be your growers, because the growers, due to 280E, have the most to gain by getting into retail. Because they could carry a lot of those cost of goods into their grow. So, and maybe they don't have to make the markup so high.
There's an internal revenue code, so we're getting a tax structure.
Right, yeah. With the tax structure, it would be highly beneficial for a grower to give us a call because they stand the most to win out of this whole thing, especially a large grower. Large grower with plenty of capital that could do multiple locations at the same time. If you can open 3 stores, then you get a large discount on the franchise. It goes down to half price. Our franchise fees is $40,000. So
40?
Yes.
And what do you get for that, Eric? That $40,000?
That's you get the operations manual, you get training, you get our building layout design, you get help with the site selection, you get guidance through your licensing in Oklahoma. If you're not in Oklahoma, then we'll help you pick out an attorney or something or at least put you in the right direction to get the licensing part taken care of.
We have corporate partners with CPA firms, Green Growth CPAs, Summit CPA, which is our virtual financial officer. We also have corporate partners with Pharmacology University, so that if a person in Illinois, which we're not as adept at the tax or the licensing structure there, we can refer any of our franchisees to just world-class consultants that we used when we put our first store in Oklahoma, and they are everywhere. That was Pharmacology University where you meet Eric, where you met Eric. So
we also
well, and Eric, the good news is Pharmacology University they also use Tom Howard, who we're close with Tom. We have Tom on our show. Tom's had us on his show, and he's a good friend of ours, as much as even he's a great attorney in the cannabis field. But
that's exactly who we would direct them to for Illinois.
Right.
Tom, that's ideal because he's our guy.
It is. He did a great speech up there. But also we provide a website for the franchisees, so that's something they don't have to mess with. A top-notch website, by the way. And we also create a landing page for their specific location. We have an IT support staff that helps guide traffic to their store specifically.
So you've got all the POS management systems. Everything comes turnkey. And when they turn on the lights, they turn everything on. You got consistent music. You've got products that they can sell. They get an educational manual that you can work with them and train them. So when they open their doors, they're knowledgeable.
So we even have funding partners. So we have there's a company we work with out of Dallas that can actually convert up to 100% of the 401k without penalty. She charges $4,000 to create your LLC and do the conversion. And you can use that 401k money to dispense.
Can you do that in Illinois too, as well, do you think?
That's national. Yep.
National.
Well, we'll have to talk about that because maybe there's some other funding sources we can collaborate on, because there's some that, I mean, 40K is nothing, and there's a lot of opportunities, especially, and then that's a good thing, you know, I'm sure, so with those building blueprints in Oklahoma, I don't know if it's the same, but here, 20% of the application is security and security measures. I'm sure you guys can provide insights on that as well, because that's very important. I mean, with all the riots that happened in Chicago, all 40 of them got looted, you know, and you have to have the right security places and measures in place.
Right. We also have another funding partner based out of Beverly Hills, California. And if you have over an 800 credit score, they will fund your project up to 100% of it. At, she said 7 to 10% interest. So it's a high interest rate, but
there we go.
You don't have to worry about the banking regulations.
Is there a size restriction? Do you have any ideas on when you start emerging past or start growing past Oklahoma? I think, Eric, when you and I were talking the other day, you were saying you've got licensed in Illinois now to move forward with the franchise?
yes, our registration is in process. We haven't got the final stamp on it. It takes 2 months to do it.
Okay. And after that's completed, let's say someone gets approved for a license here. If they were to call you, you'd be able to get them set up quickly. You help them with real estate and finding locations, or is that up to them to do when they basically are approved?
We would hold their hand through it. It would be up to them to do, but because they know their local area better than I do. But we're going to give them the general idea of how we would like it, you know, our traffic flow to be, and we'll look at it on Google Earth and see, you know, hey, is this a decent
market? Market analysis of what that area could provide.
daytime, nighttime population, those sorts of things. So we'll run the data. Yeah.
And now you can have me and Dan go hang out with them.
Right.
And the best way for anyone interested to look into it and let us know that they're interested would be to go to eufloriameds.com, and there's a link on the website for interest in the franchise.
And it's Eufloria, EUFLORIAMEDS.com.
Yep.
Yeah. But our brand is just simply Eufloria. That's our trademark, is Eufloria.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So let me ask you guys, this is kind of out of left field, but Oklahoma is a lot different than Chicago. I mean, Oklahoma, I've been hearing on the cannabis side is the Wild Wild West. A lot of things are going on. Chicago's its own Wild Wild West. But, you know, that's a whole different story. But, you know, what are some of the crazy things you guys are seeing out there as far as it's got to be competitive with everyone getting into the market out there, and it's a little bit, you know, less barriers to entry?
It's actually, you know, a year ago, I would say, yeah, Wild Wild West. I mean, our first transaction was fully legal, but it was kind of crazy. But it's actually just kind of a normal business. I don't know. What do you think?
I think in respect to the Wild Wild West that you're hearing there and that we've heard here, people that maybe came into a legal industry market from the illicit industry market,
Mm-hmm.
old habits are hard to break. And so maybe they went to Colorado for some things. Maybe they brought some things in a U-Haul from, you know, Washington State. And then maybe they had great deals on their grand opening. That's one way to skin the cat.
They could get away with that there. You couldn't hear. The compliance is so restrictive and so closely tended.
Well, and you've got the mature market because your recreational is falling into what has already been defined by law in your medical market. And so this was like the birth of the medical market, and like day 2, there was weed somehow, you know?
Right.
And I dare say the plant doesn't grow that fast, you know?
Yeah, it sure doesn't, does it?
Well,
There's been some real shortages here from time to time since January, but I think they're starting to level out. I have a medical card, and I'm finding it when I see the recreational people, I think there's more availability for them than they've had in the past just recently. Of course, that means
Still
more
not
money
impressive.
in the state of Illinois,
right.
tax-wise, so.
I'm sure you've never had an issue in Oklahoma where, you know, if you walk in, you guys aren't telling people waiting in line, hey, only one pre-roll per person. Right? You guys don't go out in the line and say that. You guys don't even have lines probably, right?
Oh, no, there's lines. I mean,
Oh, really?
yeah, there will be people waiting in line at the stores, but we don't limit anything like that. Our suppliers, because they're all local, really great relationships that we garner. We've got, you know, several people, several reputable brands that they're probably 30 to 45 minutes away when we need them for a resupply. So we offer every day, every customer up to the max that the state allows for one person to be in possession of. Do
they have a limit on medical on how much each patient can have a month as far as grams or ounces?
No, this is going to blow your mind. I actually called to confirm that there's not even a daily limit. It's a per transaction limit.
How much is the per transaction limit out of curiosity?
What's going to blow your mind is 5 pounds of edibles.
How much?
Yeah, and there's no milligram limit.
No milligrams of the actual item. And so they could come in and, you know, load a shopping cart with edibles. And I think that it was 3 ounces of bulk flour at one purchase.
Wow.
I like that.
So in Chicago, you can walk around with 30 grams, 4 cartridges, and 500 milligrams.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think I can have up to, I think it's 5 ounces a month, 2.5. And I've gone over that when the market first started. I was like going to Costco. I wanted to stock up. And then they went in one day and they said, "Oh, you're over your limit. You can't have it anymore today." So anyway, I'm like a little scientist. I like to have my different effects for my pain.
Sure.
Yeah. Hey, Dan, I want to answer the third part of that question from earlier. So we have our third group of ideal client, which or franchisee, which would be your conversions. So conversion would be a store that's already in existence. They're at a good location, that it's just mismanaged, you know, and they need somebody to come in with the expertise to make it work.
Are you going to have a number of company-owned stores like a McDonald's does with their franchise? Not that you're McDonald's, but something like that, where you go in and you try and buy as many as you can in different states, so you regulate the growth and have a better handle on it?
We are creating a second LLC to handle that, but Eufloria Franchising will not. Eufloria Franchising is a legally trademarked certified franchise, and one of the reasons it's the only one is because Eufloria Franchising never buys, sells, or transports any illicit product whatsoever. It's privy to just regular banking, so it's more of a consultancy firm. That's
how do you make sure none of your franchisees get into trouble with regulation and compliance? You watch over them very carefully, because I'm sure that'll happen sooner or later, knowing people how they operate.
And that is like, I'm sure you're aware that everywhere there's various different types of points of sale that'll get you to the same spot for your seed to sale tracking. One of the things about the franchise is that we direct everyone through our corporate partner, FlowHub. And so by having that access through FlowHub, great company, we're very happy with the software. We can track all of the metrics of franchisees in sort of an executive overarching view-only status. And we can watch what products start moving, which products aren't moving, what their sales are, what bud tenders are not performing up to where the rest of their bud tenders are. And then within our documentation of SOPs and different training material that we have, we're going to be able to cue that owner to get his manager on board, work with that one person, work with those products, look for something else. And just by keeping our finger on the pulse, we'll be able to help guide them along as some kind of extra set of eyes and ears to look over their interests.
Okay. Are you using any logistics management software yet at this stage for shipments and
No, not yet.
streamlining? I know there's companies just starting. I've had calls from people that want to staff that type of business where they think the cannabis industry is finally at the edge to grow. So I'm just curious if you're looking at that yet, because I think it's going to be an issue because, you know, look at Walmart. They consider themselves a logistics company, not a retailer. I think logistics, maybe not right now, but it's going to become more important to the cannabis industry to maintain price and margins as the industry grows. And I have to think as a franchisee or a franchisor, that'll be important to your people.
It absolutely is, and that is something that we are working towards. I haven't been able to find the right fit yet for it. I've been looking for it. And if you have somebody in mind, just
there's 3 or 4 that I've run into, Eric, and I'll share that with you offline.
okay. But yeah, but right now, since most of our stores are in Oklahoma and our next stores in Oklahoma, we've been able to keep up with the logistics staff we have right now. But yes, we are going to need that. In fact, we've got an inquiry right now. We have some people with the FDD in Kansas, and they're in Wichita, and they are interested in doing our CBD only model. So in the states where THC is not yet legal, we're affording franchisees an opportunity to go ahead and get open as Eufloria at an extremely reduced rate, franchise fee of 10 grand, and we're not going to charge them the additional 30,000 once that state goes legal, because they're putting their best foot forward, and they're only operating as a CBD store up until the time it goes legal. And so but right now we have something for them. So going intrastate is something that we're going to be doing in the very near future.
So essentially they're investing, saying, hey, I want to work with you. My state's not legal yet. What can I do? Well, I'll open up a CBD shop because, I mean, I'm into CBD. I know Dan's into CBD. In fact, our guest next week has a great pain cream in CBD. Dan knows I'm good in the CBG area is kind of the new area everything's going, especially with immune benefits to that. So that's an interesting model. It's kind of like, hey, I'm going to start getting your support, sell CBD in the area, build a market, and then if I get a license, I don't have to pay that 30 because I kind of did the biz dev for you.
Right.
And they have the prime locations because those quickly go away as soon as THC legalizes.
Yeah, they do.
And depending on your lease agreement that you can go in, and if you're just going to be a CBD shop, no one has the, oh, you're a dispensary, you're going to be making so much money when they tell you what they want for rent for that space.
Yeah.
So it puts you in a market early. Our time to market gets you out to market early. And then with the CBD starting off, you can begin that education. You can begin melding that THC and CBD market together with your clientele as you establish that brand loyalty and that educational loyalty, so that when that license hits, you've got customer base already there. They trust you. They know you're reputable. They've already seen the benefit of half the house. And then when it comes to bear that you can provide the THC products as well, you're just going to make them that much more of a loyal customer.
And we're already going to have them built out for flipping that switch to THC very simply.
Eric, could you say that again? You cut out. You had a little lag in the internet.
We are already going to have them built out for flipping that switch and going to THC, so they won't have to change much. They're just going to have to add some additional product all the way down to their point of sale system. So we've made a agreement, I guess, or with FlowHub. That they're going to work a special deal as well for our CBD franchisees and not charge them the full point of sale price for when it's just CBD. And then they'll start getting our regular reduced Eufloria price for the full dispensary once they put that switch. But they'll already know FlowHub. So there's going to be very little change in the transition.
You have management fees for the franchisees that they pay based on the services that you offer as the franchise?
Speak up if you
I
would.
can hear you, Tim.
Just the franchise royalty, the monthly royalty based out of gross profit.
Okay, so
It's 6%.
So pretty standard franchising. I mean, that's what you pay for a sandwich shop, which is ridiculously.
where do you think the next state you'll be growing in outside of Oklahoma?
It's probably going to be Kansas with these guys.
Okay. Are you looking into New Mexico yet? Because I think they're moving in the right direction, and I know a number of people there that'd be a good state for you. Just heads up. I've been talking to people there, and I know that it's a lot of excitement on what could happen.
We can do it, and we can support it. So we get a phone call from there. We can
New Jersey's another one that's kind of leaning. I was talking to someone there, and they're kind of leaning, and that'll be the straw that gets New York too. So one by one, everybody is going to be kind of hitting that. But with everything you guys are doing, how about with what's going on? How much has your business changed because of this Corona, with the franchise marketing, with everything that's going on? I mean, it sounds like, well, I'm promising you, I'm coming to check out your cafe on the night, and we're all going to hang out there, and I'll bring my mask with a little hole in the middle, and we can, whatever. But how has it changed? I mean, are you guys doing a lot of delivery, curbside? What's different?
No, we haven't done any curbside because we never disallowed people to come into our store. Because the setup that we have, which, like Eric said before, can start off with your CBD model, uses bank glass security that separates the vault with the products from where the customers are. The rest of the design is an open floor plan. So the customers and our consultants are always separated through a pane of glass, other than the consultants that are working the floor, helping them go through their shopping experience. One thing that we are developing is a Android app where people can actually take our pre-orders and actually come in and pick up a bag that has your name and the date and time that you were going to come in, and we'll have that ready for you, just as if you were going to a Walgreens or CVS after calling in a prescription.
Do you have that for the iPhone too, Tim?
We're going to be working on that. Apple is a little bit.
You don't need the iPhone, Tim.
Yeah, you do. Alden's got the Android.
Nobody uses the iPhone.
If our CTO James was here, he'd be able to give you a 10-minute explanation of this. But the down and dirty is it's going to be a mobile web app, and it looks to the user like a regular app, but it takes you to our website, to a mobile-friendly version of the website.
Well, we're going to have to talk, because we're working with the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico on similar things on electronic payments for that. So that might be a great application to also apply to that. We can have another conversation on that, but that's interesting, because here the big issue is security. If you can decrease that cash, regardless if you're doing $1 million a month or $100,000 a month, tools like that make it so that 70% of your transactions are now electronic. And that's a statistic you can look into. Over 90 days, it's going to transition into more of an electronic environment, making the whole atmosphere safer. But on the financing side, allowing you to show trackable cash flows to get financing and get treated like a business too.
Sure. Yeah, and it also comes, one of the biggest red flags for the IRS, we know, like how dispensaries and the marijuana industry itself gets audited 5 times the normal amount of most business industries in the United States. Reason being is that it's majorly a cash-only business. So again, trying to look out for our franchisees, the faster they get banked and have that cashless ATM that they can swipe a card and make that digital from day one, the less likely they are to be audited, and the less likely they are to lose track of their funds.
Right.
Are you able to have any banking relationships in Oklahoma?
Yes.
At this stage? And you do? Are you using debit cards or using other means?
Debit card machine, so they can swipe it, put in a PIN just like they were at a grocery store, and purchase their products.
They get the cash, but you still have the cash issue, right?
Oh,
Where
sure.
you
We
have the
still get
security
things.
and everything.
I think we do about 45% of our sales are cashless. But
The
that's
reason
a
I brought
good
that
way
up, Alton works in that space. He knows a lot about that market. And
Well,
he's
I mean, it's all about
president on that.
it's all about the security issue, really, and the way that people are doing it, kind of a chicken before the egg, but there are solutions out there. It's just they're taking their time accepting dispensaries because they're doing it the right. There's the big companies in the past, like the Avalons, that, used the credit rails the wrong way and kind of did things deceptively. But if you have from beginning to end transparency, it's feasible. And that's something that we work with in True Harbor. We have TMS GreenPay, which allows you to use a closed loop peer-to-peer, which is like PayPal, right?
Yeah.
And it gives on the backside an e-pen, but to the consumer, they're using a credit card, they're using a debit card, doesn't matter. To the merchant, it's something that's very secure, very easy, but the key is transparency. And that's, I think, where the evolution is. As more and more people get cannabis-friendly banking that's transparent, more of these issues go away. And like you said, it's all about transparency. The IRS wants to see it. You're showing them, hey, here's my wallet, look at it.
Right.
Even if there is an issue, they're just going to say, hey, look, you can't be doing this, as opposed to, all right, where'd this extra $1 million of cash go? It's a little bit more sneaky.
Right.
This is actually another great benefit of the Eufloria franchise model, is because you get that operations manual. So many actually, from what the lady told me, most dispensaries don't get approved for banking because they actually send an ambassador out, go through your books, look at your point of sale, look at your operate. They physically come into your dispensary before they approve whether or not they're going to open a banking account for you. And so having that operations manual ready to go and just say, here you go. We literally, I handed it to her and she flipped through all the pages and she's like, okay, that'll do. And she set it back down.
But that's a good point. I'm sure Dan, Tim, you guys all seen those little square things, right?
Yeah.
There's people in the CBD space charging everything with their square. You see them everywhere. They don't know that if you're not accepted in the Square's CBD program, they're going to freeze your account and take all your money.
Right.
It's illegal.
Another issue, okay, what's in a name, right? One of the things that we've heard is that consumers, like customers, have gotten their bank accounts shut down by going to a site that had a card, but when that hit their bank, it said, Dankest Buds Alive from, Oklahoma City or whatever. And
I'd shop there, Dan, would you?
But their bank, it was like too obviously cannabis. And their bank froze their accounts and kicked them out of the bank.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So, right. So these are the kind of things that you don't ever want to inflict that kind of damage on one of your customers by choosing a name like that. And those are some of those hurdles that, any entrepreneur who wants to get into the industry has never maybe considered because of their knowledge of the industry. And so caveat on the three types of, franchisee that we're looking for. And you had brought up, are we looking for people specifically that have this knowledge of the industry? What we provide is enough documentation and knowledge that can be laid in front of someone who, let's just say, is a venture capitalist that has done well and he's got some money and he wants to go at it, but he has no clue what this industry is about. By the time he's done going through the documents, he's educated to the marijuana industry. And if it's a person who knows marijuana but doesn't have a lot of business sense, he's educated to his tax structure within that industry.
You hit it right on the head, because so as someone that I've raised capital in all sorts of industries, ran an office for a company based in Dubai, blockchain, you name it, all these little crazy little things you've heard over the years, The biggest thing people don't understand is that people don't want to just give you money to live your dreams. They want to actually make money back, right? So when people say, oh, I'm going to buy this dispensary, I'm going to buy this farm, I'm going to grow so much cannabis, it's all going to sell, it's a hot market. well, yeah. How can you show me that that's it? And that's why it's important, whether it's an actual business manual, a process, the operations manual, like you guys said. It makes a difference saying, hey, this is what we're going to do step by step, as opposed to, oh, well, we have access to like 10,000 pounds a month and it's the only dispensary. There's only like one license there. This is legit how people think they can raise capital in this market. And literally they can, but they have to show that it's because, well, we have a niche that we want to work with this type of PTSD group, or we have a location across, it's the only license in this whole national park, something that makes sense, right? Something that makes sense. And that's the variable that people are missing. So that's awesome that you guys provide that manual.
I have another question too. Oh, go ahead, Eric, please.
I'm sure that with not just venture capital, with private equity as well, liability is one of those issues that you guys look at. So we have an HR staff. So we mandate that all of our franchisees use this HR staff. It's a firm that we outsource it to, but we have one. No other dispensaries are using HR staffs.
Is it an Oklahoma-based firm?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But they do
hire us to be your guys because
they work nationally.
Well, when you guys come to Illinois, we'll help you with that. And then all of our little Green and Shy partners that do the training for the licenses, for the cultivation, that's how I got, if you can imagine how frustrating it is to be top in sales and stuff and then not be able to get a cannabis sales job. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we got involved and created a platform to get people the opportunities that they're going for, right? It's hard. I mean, it is a political, no matter where you are in the country, there's its own cannabis politics. And you have to have the resources and connections to not only not be ripped off, but to get the right step up.
Right. And as for also on the liability thing, we also mandate that they have workman's comp. That's another thing, and insurance, just general liability insurance. You should tell the story about the insurance. Was so funny. Insurance company.
We went to the insurance company and we had one of our franchisees there. Hey, go up here, talk to these guys, get your policy. And we went in on our second store to get our policy. And the lady said, I just can't understand it. You're the only 3 stores that actually carry liability insurance.
Really?
Yeah.
They're going to be mandatory, wouldn't you?
Well, it's not mandatory.
Interesting.
Illinois, everything you can think about is mandatory.
Yep.
Yeah. It was November 1st. It was.
So are you guys looking to Pennsylvania, Oklahoma, or Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan as well? As far as, are you starting to have talks with people, or is it too early to do that for you? I'm just trying to bring this up in case.
We had a conversation with the guy in Ohio, yes, about 3 months ago, but we looked into licensing opportunities. He didn't want to do CBD. He just wanted to do THC, and it was too far out for Ohio. But things change on a weekly basis, as you know, with cannabis. So I haven't looked at Ohio in the last 3 months, but as of 3 months ago, it was it might have been a long way forward.
I think Michigan is more liberal like Oklahoma. Would you agree with that, Alton?
I do. I do. And the only thing that I know is there's a lot of people making moves in Michigan. It's just they have a lot of things slowing down because of Corona. I know people that have dispensaries. They're just like you guys. You have build outs that are this close to being done. You have, like in these cases, they have their own, cultivation. They're just about to just blow up. And then something like this, I mean, I'm sure there's hundreds of thousands of different companies in the same situation, but Michigan, I think, is exciting. I think it's very exciting. I know Lori, she's watching. She's one of our biggest fans. I'm a big fan of her. She's with Nobu. It's Tim, Eric, I'll introduce you guys. She's watching right now, but they're a multi-state operator. They actually have 17 applications in for Illinois, hoping to get one. That's the kind of market it is here. So that's another good person that, if you're looking for that, I mean, that might be a good connection for you guys.
Yeah. It's remarkable how much money people have to put up front in Illinois and risk. There's a lady that I spoke with at length. She would like to do Eufloria's in Illinois. She's with the Women's Investment Group. It's 4 ladies together. And they put 76 applications in. She said it's $6,500 a piece, non-refundable, and hopes to get up to 10 licenses. So she's like, but I know one of them's gonna pay off. I'm like, okay, all right.
But that's 1% of the applications, right? So there's, 1,700. I mean, it's a crazy, and on top of that, everyone's antsy because they keep pushing it back. I mean, I wish that everything in Chicago could take a break, but it's kind of like that Simpsons episode where they're trying to figure out where Montgomery Burns is alive, and he's got every disease at the same time, and that's like Chicago's going on. We got COVID, we got riots, we got protests, we got politics, and then we got everyone in the cannabis saying, let us sell everything and start our business. And then you have the restaurant industry, which is usually the best in I think the nation. Dan, you like food. I mean, you can't beat it here. They're hurting, and all our favorite restaurants are shutting down, which is the least of it. But at least marijuana I can't believe it's 8 months. In 8 months went from misdemeanor just a carry to essential, and only one of the only companies open here.
It's crazy here. I live right in the heart of the city, right downtown. If you've been on Michigan Avenue, I'm 1.5 blocks east, and I can't walk down my street anymore without smelling somebody smoking a joint on every block. Sometimes it's way more than one. It's all over the place. So it's something that's becoming more commonplace. But I think the reason we wanted to have you on tonight was because you're doing something different. I think it offers options to people that want to be in this industry but have no idea how. And it's something that, we've got just a short time left. We're at 7:59. Guys, I'd like you to tell people that are listening how they can get in touch with you, phone number, address.
Well, you're forgetting something, Dan. We always do something.
Yes.
What's the last thing that, if you're going to leave everybody watching this, what's the one piece of advice from your shoes that you're going to leave everybody with?
That's true.
We always end with that. So
I'll say this. If you're going to open a dispensary, whether it's medical or recreational, do it because you care. Do it because you want to be invested. Because when we're open 24 hours a day and you can look a person suffering from opiate addiction coming clean for 3 months, and they're so happy that you're there in their neighborhood, and you can look that woman or man in the eye and say, if you wake up at 2 a.m. and those cold sweats are happening and you feel like the walls are closing in, you're not alone here with Eufloria. We're open 24 hours a day. Come down, have a cup of coffee, talk with our folks. We'll take care of you. We don't quit caring at 10 p.m.
That's a beautiful message. And Tim, Eric, I am coming down there in the next week or two because we're doing a little trip. Talk to people going camping. We're doing this. And I might be the tent in front of your cafe, but it's been a pleasure having you on here. It's been amazing.
I actually want to say one thing if I got a second.
Yeah, please.
So as far as the business angle, you shouldn't hesitate to bring on partners. You have to have partners in this industry. It's so complex. It's not a sandwich shop. This is a very complex industry, and there are so many hurdles. You can't do it by yourself. You can't. It just can't happen. I've got 3 partners, highly intelligent guys that I completely depend upon, and we couldn't even do it with one less of us.
No.
To do it at this level.
So if you can leave some information on your emails, how to get in touch with you via email, your phone numbers, things of that sort. So in case someone's listening, they can write that down. So
we can provide that all. We can provide that all in the recording as well, the website.
When we put this up on YouTube, we'll put it on as well.
A simple first name, Tim or Eric, at eufloriameds.com.
And
that will be posted on the
meds.com.
That's correct.
Right. Or you can just go to the website, click on franchising.
Yep.
Guys, thank you so much for being on tonight. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. It was really one of my most enjoyable interviews because we haven't talked to anybody doing franchising yet. And I think what you're doing has great merit, great potential.
Thanks for the invite.
So thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks for joining us, guys. Everybody in the Green and Shine Network,
Great
thank
evening,
you for
great
joining
week.
us.
Good night. Until next time,
Keep in
guys,
touch.
be well. Alton, until
Ciao for now.
see you soon. Bye, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye, guys.